Hola amigos. Well, first of all, I must apologize because it's been quite a hiatus since I posted my last video because I've been quite busy. After all those years of lockdown in Peru, I finally was able to come back to Australia, a 5-stage flight via Panama and United States, Hawaii and everything. Finally made it back to Sydney, did a little bit of exploring around Sydney, the Blue Mountains, made it up to Portland. But then I went down to Austinmere, and this is what happened. This is called Sublime Point Lookout, or Bulli Tops, and it's overlooking Austinmere to the east. But if you look down south, you'll see Wollongong. Perfect place to try out a new lens and camera and Gigapan unit. I'd recently bought second-hand, all of it on eBay. The only problem was the batteries in the Gigapan unit died long ago, and I had an AC adapter, but how to get power to it. So I'm here at Sublime Point overlooking Wollongong, and I originally came here to do a Gigapan. This is an experiment, and it appears to be working. See that white lead there, or just there, that runs back to my brother's car, the 12-volt outlet, where there's a 12-volt to 240 inverter, which runs along here to power the Gigapan, which is taking one of the fair city of Wollongong. So we've worked out that it works. And we should get a pretty good Gigapan out of it as well. There was a lot of trees and shrubs that blocked the view, but I was able to do a 200 image Gigapan, which was perfect for a test. And I shot in RAW and then played around with it in Photomatix to get more contrast and definition. You know, my 30 or 40 year old 5-star 500mm is 750mm equivalent, so it's getting to the extreme end of photography. I used Gigapan Stitch, which is supposed to reduce vignetting, but it was still visible, but it was a satisfactory result. Just look how far you can zoom in here. There's some people on the beach with a dog, and that's the steelworks way down in Port Kembla, quite a few kilometres away. And I originally came here to do a Gigapan, but guess what rolled up in the form of 2 wheels? Today was the 25th of January, so tomorrow was the 26th of January, an Australia Day holiday, national holiday. So I'm guessing that these guys, these riders, and by the way, all of them were older guys. They all look to be pretty much in the 50 or over club, like me, and like most of their bikes. So I'm guessing that most of these guys were on their way to an Australia Day rally somewhere. A pair of guys in green high-vis vests, like I wore in South America, same colour and everything. Unfortunately, they arrived as I was setting up the Gigapan and doing the Gigapan, and they started leaving just after I packed up the Gigapan, which, because of the lead and everything, was about a 20-minute process. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to talk to any of them. But I couldn't help but think that many of these vintage bikes, they wouldn't have been vintage when I was younger, in my youth, which kind of makes me feel old. Nice blue Triumph there, I think. There is something nice about the whir of motorbikes, purring past, the sound. Last but not least, a sidecar. Everybody loves a sidecar. A few weeks later, me and my younger brother decided to rent a hybrid car and drive up to southeast Queensland to visit my sister. On the way up, we stopped at Trial Bay Jail camping ground, and guess what we discovered there? As darkness fell, rummaging through our food scraps in the middle of the night. Three-way boxing match, yeah? Wait. Oh, Jesus. Get out of here.
Later, one of them timidly approached me, probably looking for food. So after visiting my sister in Kooralbyn, we headed back south to Sydney, a 2-day trip, and this time we stopped in at Ballina at the Naval and Maritime Museum and home of Las Balsas rafts. And what is Las Balsas raft? Well, here it is. This tiny raft was one of 3 that carried 12 men, 4 on each raft, from 7 different countries, crossing almost 14,000 kilometres of open ocean in 6 months in 1973 with just a single sail, the longest raft voyage in history. They should be more famous. Especially this man, Vital Alsar, now passed away, the captain of the fleet. He should be just as famous as Captain Cook because he tried 3 times. The first time he failed. The second time he made it in a single raft. The third time he did it in 3 rafts. Just to prove his critics wrong and it was no fluke.
So I'm here in the National Motorcycle Museum of Australia in Nabiac. It's just north of Newcastle, just north of Sydney. It's absolutely amazing. It's so huge. I didn't realise just it's 3 actual pavilion halls full of motorbikes, and they've got some really amazing bikes. Huge.
This is one of the first bikes you see when you walk in, an Australian-built 2-stroke drag bike, but a little sign there says it's unknown who built it or exactly when it was built.
It's a Suzuki Turbo.
I think this is Russian or Eastern European. Nice sheepskin covered seats there for the sidecar passenger. Three-wheelers and four-wheelers are also represented here, the vintage and unusual ones that they have. Not sure what this one is. Maybe an amphibious car? Now this is one of the first, if not the first, Chinese bike imported into Australia. And apparently the importer burst into tears when he saw the poor quality of the paintwork, etc. And the suspension just didn't meet the Australian design rules. This Militaire, it had wooden spokes, and look at the way it's built, like a gear shifter on a car or a light truck. Some of these brands are all but forgotten except to collectors. The bikes here must be worth a fortune, but you could have bought this one here for a bit over £47 back in the day. For me, the most interesting part of this museum were these little known or totally unknown Australian built bikes. Some of them, they don't know the year, they don't know who made them, hardly anything's known about them. Very interesting. Oh, this is Dale Buggins. He was like Australia's version of Evel Knievel. And he died very young, 20 or 21. I remember it was on the TV. And he actually broke Evel Knievel's record. But very tragic. He was at the height of his fame, international and everything, and he shot himself and killed himself just before a big show. Look at that there. Looks like something Evel Knievel could wear. Ah, here are all the Nortons lined up. I'm not sure, but I think this model here is the same as Che Guevara had in the Motorcycle Diaries, or very similar. Here are all the Vespas. And here's the legendary Velocette. They're supposed to be almost indestructible, these ones. This looks like the Ducati section. Ah, look up there. There's a Suzuki A100 and it's metallic blue, exactly the same as my first motorbike, which I learned to ride on when I was a teenager and just out of high school. I had a bad accident on it once and then I sold it and didn't start riding again until I was 50. But I kept my license current, and that was that exact same model and colour bike was my first bike. What a beauty.
Yep, same colour, same model.
Now this thing's unusual, exotic, bizarre. It's called a Nura car. And just look at the suspension at the front. Yes, something for young and old. Even if you're not interested in motorbikes, I think you'd have an interesting time here. Like me and my brother certainly did. That's all for now, amigos. This wasn't a proper episode, as I'm sure you can see. It was just to let you know why I've been off the air for a few months. The next video I post will be back in Patagonia, where I'm going to try and head north, but I run into a few problems. So stay tuned for that video. It's coming out as soon as I can edit it and get it all ready. Ciao for now.